everybody. Welcome to, I think it's 24. Is it Les?
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to Open Mic number 24. Thanks so much for coming out on this lovely winter's night.
Yeah.
Have the fire on. Kev's been chopping wood all day. So as you know, Kev does record everyone's readings. If you don't want to be on YouTube, please tell him so he knows not to include it in the upload. If you haven't had a look at the YouTube stuff, it's worthwhile having a look. It's good to actually have a look at yourself and see what, have a look at the way you read and what your work sounds like. It's a really good learning tool. So, I don't think we will limit anyone too much today. Obviously, if you go on forever, we might ding you. But we don't have to limit it to 5 minutes like we have in the past few months. So I'm actually going to kick off tonight. Les put my name on the list and said I have to read. So...
Is Les's name on the list?
No, I thought there was some pact that you guys made.
Les didn't show up, Beck didn't show up, and Suzanne's not here, so...
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Is this echoing, Kev? I can just hear it reverberating. Does this sound okay?
Yeah.
Hello. That's better. Okay, I'm actually working on a memoir of my childhood. I am aiming to have this published by October, but I don't know if that will happen. Because I keep going over and over and over, and I don't know when to stop. Who gets that? Yes. So this is the opening of my memoir. It's called Take Me to the River. I want you to come with me. I want you to come on a road trip with me. It's just up the Princess Highway, about 8 hours from Melbourne. The scenery on this trip hasn't changed much over the past 40 years, and we still sing out the same joke every time we pass Genoa at the border. Genoa? Nah, never met her. A couple more hours up the coast, the turn-off is at the bridge of a small highway town, also unchanged in my memory. We need to follow some dirt roads, so wind up your window, otherwise you'll choke on the dust. Utopia is not far away. Google map it if you need proof. Look at that black glossy cow blinking at us. And I just lost where I was. Then continuing her lunch. The vivid green stretches out behind her in rolling pastures. It's picture perfect here and could be somewhere more exotic, like Switzerland. This is dairy country, home of Bega cheese. Are you ready? We're over the causeway now, starting the slow climb up the mountain. If we're lucky, we might see a lyrebird or a dingo. Can you feel the difference in the air? The crispness, the smell of eucalyptus? Take no notice of me if I smile like a crazy woman. It's the everlasting daisies scattered along the roadside. The yellow heads remind me that I'm almost home. Okay, we're near the top now. To our left is a road that continues up to the fire tower. From there you can see right over the coast. If you're a fisherman perched on river stones, their skin glistens wet from the river as they take a long drag on a joint and nod to each other. If you sit here for a while, you hear these years of conversation down by the river. You might see a mirage of children diving to the bottom of the clear water or spinning on an old aeroplane kite towards the rapids after a flood. When I close my eyes, when I dream, when I meditate, I always visit this spot. It flows through my veins. This is where I will come to after death. I've left instructions. And every time I come here, real or imagined, the first place I come is here. Without the river, I am nothing. This is where I come to revisit myself. Thanks. So, I'm going to start with Richard. Richard is going to read a short story called Follow Me. Welcome, Richard.
I can't follow that Blaise, I'm afraid, so that's too good. Okay, folks, Heather and I went up to Gold Rush area, Ballarat and Indigo, a few weeks back, as obviously it is a very big part of Australian Victorian history. Fortunate.
Excuse me, I can't hear. Can you? Is it loud enough?
I will have to go down like that. Okay, so for Heather, we went up to Bendigo Gold Rush area, and I wrote a couple of articles for UK magazines, but they're factual articles. But out of it, the spin-off was, I thought this is just a nice little story out of it. And I'm glad that Blaise said I can get to the end, because the devil is in that end. Follow me. This way, over here. Follow me. A figure from the shadows of the pithead is beckoning a little group. I'm your guide for the day. George Dance is my name. And we're moving towards the tunnel in the rock face that was once the most famous gold mine in those far-off days in Gold Rush, Australia. Mind your heads, George is saying, and the steel mesh doors of the cage slam shut. The winding gear whirs, and we're descending 500 feet below the city of Bendigo. Welcome to my world, our guide says again with that welcoming smile. I'll see you come to no harm. Harm? What harm? Men perish down here, good men searching for that elusive piece of gold and untold riches. George was a miner himself. He smiles of a man who knows. Good men, he says again. And we all set off behind him, me and Heather, and two other couples, and a guy with a red bomber jacket, and another, a little Japanese tourist with a smart suit and polished shoes. All keen to immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of a mile deep below Bendigo, and all keen to capture the experience of those early years for those desperate miners. Moments before, the reassuringly confident lady on the ticket counter had confirmed just how dreadful those days could be. I had read so much, she said. I felt it was only right and proper to know the bad as well as the good, if I was going to greet people at the Bendigo. And the miner's light, keep that on. Here, I'll show you. He's flicking a switch on the front of the helmets we're all wearing. A beam of light pierces the darkness ahead. Heather and me, the other couples and the chap in the red jacket, and the immaculate Japanese tourist. All our lights stab the blackness ahead, and the helmets give us reassurance too. George seems to know the mine, the history, the men, and what visitors want. He has experience, and this experience has been born as a miner in years gone by. Mind your heads, he's saying again, and mind the puddles. They were deep in places. He points ahead, and our beams of light are absorbed by the blackness of the water. Yes, we're all minding our heads and stepping round those seemingly bottomless pools. The little Japanese man is wearing his best robes. Our players down here wear heavy boots, grubby overalls and tin hats are the order of the day. His expensive shoes are wet already, lost their composer, and so has he. I don't like it down here, he tells us. But there's no way back, not yet. George has some sombre facts to relate before his task is done as our guide for the day. His smile is serious now. Hundreds of men lost their lives searching for the elusive nugget to make them rich in the rock above their heads. Did we hear a creak under pressure? A crack of rock giving way? There's an uncomfortable silence as we all strain our ears. The little Japanese man puts his hand to his hard head. Is he checking it's still there? Could that save him? Even Bomber Jacket takes a step back. But George's, our guide, is smiling again. There's no risk in the year 2015, or they wouldn't allow you down here. These days the roof is stabilised with rods of steel, driven in with powerful jackhammers. See here and here. We all feel easy about these steel rods. They guarantee we won't be crushed by millions of tons of rock. Not like the day back in 1915 that George is now telling us about. A dreadful day, he says. Yep, he says exactly 100 years to the day. June 16, 1915, right here, at this point, this very place. And with their wives and families waiting on the surface for news. Waiting. George's voice trails off. Our gold mine experience is all but over now. Our guide's job is done for the day. He's leading us back to the cage that brought us down to level 5, 42 stories below the surface. That's what he had said. A grim place, a deathly place. But the cage is moving swiftly to the surface and the steel mesh gate sliding back. Sunlight, bright sunlight greets us, a warm fresh air, and the songbirds. Christ, it's nice to be back in the land of the living. Well, did you enjoy your tour of the mine? The woman on the ticket counter seemed genuinely interested in what we'd seen, what we had learnt. Did you enjoy it? She asked again. Bomber Jacket is enthusiastic, and Heather and me too. So are the two couples. Yes, says Bomber Jacket, and George was a great guide. George? Inquires the woman behind the desk. We don't have a George as a guide. You must be mistaken. We're not mistaken. George Dance, repeats the man in the bright red jacket in front of me. George was very knowledgeable. He was a miner here years ago, you know. The ticket lady seems uncertain now. Is her face going a little pale? Is she steadying herself on the counter? The only George Dance was killed in a rock fall on level 5, she says. Exactly 100 years ago. 100 years ago to this very day. June 16, 1915. It was one of the worst accidents. George and 3 men tried to run for it. Just the 3 escaped for their lives. Just 3, the lucky ones. 100 years to go to the very day that George Dance died in the Bendigo mine.
Thanks, Richard. I don't know if anyone noticed up on the table there, we actually have application forms for the Creative Fellowship. It doesn't open till October, but you can take a form if you're interested in applying, in case you want to start, thinking about your application. So there's forms up on the table there. Everyone in this room is eligible if they're doing something creative, whether it's writing or art, photography, songwriting, poetry, anything like that. We might have Richard number 2. So Richard Trembark is going to read some poetry. Our Winter Light and When Did the Roses Die? Are these from the latest collection or?
One is, one isn't.
Okay, cool.
So I've got one.
Well.
This one was written some time ago. It's called When Did the Roses Die? Where did they go, the golden sands, the beach I walked with you? Where went the sun that shone to grace the days when our life was new? When came the tide? Whence came the clouds, the dark, the driving rain, the cold that now engulfs the life that I must live in pain? When did the roses lose their blush, the landscape lose its hue? When did the sun that bathed our lives slip silently from view? Where went the impish, joyful light that twinkled in your eye? Where went the love once brave and true? When did the roses die? Under the scythe of the reaper grim and his vile whore neglect, who noiseless come in the night and cut a swathe when we least expect, who make us pay for each tiny sin and each chance that we let pass by, and leave us amid the shreds of our lives to ask, when did the roses die? Where is the joy of the days long gone, of the times I spent with you, of snow on the mountain and nights of rain, and strolls in the morning dew. How did I lose you? Where did you go? When did life pass me by? My memory still is of blood-red blooms. When did the roses die? And as let's say in Monty Python, and now for something completely different. This was written back in the days, 1996. Australian Airlines and Qantas, etc., were still in business then, and I know that this was at one stage pinned on the notice board of every Qantas, every Australian Airlines office in Australia. It's called Corporate Irrelevance. We start our working lives believing we shall be rewarded by a grateful master, but we learn that we are merely cannon fodder, pay numbers in a computer run by people we do not know, who are themselves mere pay numbers in the same computer. Our master is but a name. We know him not, he knows not us, and when we go, he knows not even we were there, much less that we were gone. One more, Blaise. Thank you. Blaise is very accommodating. This is called Our Winter Lives. This is a fairly new one. They disappear more quickly in colder, barren climes, where snow falls steadily and covers them. Two sets of footprints, yours and mine. The snow blends flake by drifting flake to cover them, and forms a pristine blanket, uncaring where it falls and totally without discrimination. Yesterday's snow and all the indentations which we made together in our lives are gone, with ne'er a trace that they were ever there. The winding path, the one we trod, is but a memory, a fleeting recollection of a happy time, but gone to whence such memories go. And now that is its all, a memory, and no one cares whose memory or why, for that was yesterday. But now it is another day, which brings a new, fresh, pristine path, which all of us can choose to take, our chance to make new footprints in the snow. The choice is ours to write the text of our new lives on nature's clean white overlay, or, if we will, withdraw, to dwell instead upon the loss of footprints made on other days, made yesterday and gone. It matters not. Too soon the sun, God's fiery orb, will deem enough. It will be over, and all the little secrets of our winter lives will join the raging torrent as it rushes headlong down the gorge to join the summer sea.
I forgot to mention, Richard. Richard, I forgot to mention to you that Kev and I went to see Salt of the Earth.
Oh,
That's a fabulous movie. If anyone has a chance to go and see Salt of the Earth, that's what it's called.
The Salt of the Earth.
Salt of the Earth at Nova in Carlton. Fabulous movie. Pamela. Pamela's going to give us an instalment of her memoir. Meeting Simon again.
Last time I was here, I told you the story of how I met Simon and taken me to London Bridge and how he took me down to Ordinary Regis. Well, I've written all that up. Had a wonderful time in Ordinary Regis, 6 months. And while I was there, an old choreographer from the Windmill phoned me up and said, I've got a job for you. So I only had 1 day off. And I started working with cavalcade cabaret in London in all the big hotels. So I was very busy for about 3 weeks, and it was bitterly cold because it was the coldest winter England had seen in 200 years. It was horrendous. I mean, even the sea, it froze over for a mile out to sea. It was absolutely incredible. But anyway, after about 2 or 3 weeks and starting doing the cabarets, I thought I would give Simon a call, so I'm taking it up from there. Once the cabarets commenced, I phoned Simon. Would he like to see me again? Had he changed after 6 months? Hello, Simon. How are you? Ah, Pamela, you're back. Where are you now? I'm living in Chiswick, working in the London cabaret. Excuse me. Dancing in all the big hotels. Sorry. Yes, please. Sorry. This is a bit of alcohol. I'm living in Chiswick, working in a London cabaret, dancing in all the big hotels. That's fantastic. Love to see you again. When can I see you? Well, I don't work on a Sunday. Great, how about this Sunday at 7 o'clock? And I'll take you to dinner. Oh, Simon, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Good, we can catch up on the news then. As I put the phone down, I could sense the chemistry brewing between us. My face flushed and my body trembled with excitement. What to wear? The old skirt and mini? No, he'd have to accept me as I was. The blue jumper was more appealing, and cheap perfume was all I could afford. As I opened the front door, my spine tingled. His cheeky grin and dicky bow tie melted my heart. He hadn't changed. Elegantly, he opened the car door with care so I could glide inside. I'd forgotten his wonderful pleasantries. I was special in his eyes. He kissed my forehead, smoothing the stray hair from my face as I struggled to keep warm and feminine. We looked at each other. The chemistry was magnetic. As I drove, I nearly bit my finger to stop myself caressing his hand. I looked ahead, not daring to look at him, as he drove me to a posh restaurant in Knightsbridge. We talked incessantly while enjoying a couple of wines, avocados for entree, new for me, succulent steaks for salad, and a special dessert prepared at our table. Hot pancakes, dribbling with a Canadian maple syrup, saturated with cream and ice cream. As Simon ordered coffees and chocolates, he took my hand, as I gazed at my hand tightly, before she returns to live with me permanently. Shocked, trying to keep my composure, although the bleary eyes and red face told another story, I replied, "But Simon, I don't understand why you're taking me out. Why didn't you tell me when you phoned me? I thought it better to tell you in person, and she's away for 6 months. What about me? You have a career and I enjoy our friendship. What about her? Pamela, she's not here and I love your company. We are friends. It's not fair on your girlfriend, but I'll probably leave London soon on a summer season contract." Trembling, I waited as he paid the bill while I tried to stop the tears ruining my makeup as he escorted me to the car and drove me home. He hugged me and inquired briefly, "I'd still love to take you out. What were the options?" He needed an answer there and then. "Tell me, Simon, if she returns," I whispered as he purred softly into my ear and nibbled it. I saw him occasionally afterwards to enjoy a few good dinners, but the problem was soon resolved, or so I thought. My next contract was to dance overseas.
I know you.
If you give us his address, we're going to let his bloody tyres down.
We want to. She's leaving us hanging for next time, aren't you?
Leave it happening.
Yeah. Thanks, Pamela. Marcello, some poetry?
And the drawings.
What are you doing with the drawings?
Yeah, the part of
Oh, okay. You want me to hold them up?
just briefly, there's two there, one on the front, one on the front. In my book that, that one, but you can do this for a second. There's a poem called Jerry Gong Lovers. After what Blaise mentioned about Genoa, in my young wild youth, I used to go to Genoa, Jerry Gong, right up to Cayema, between mid-60s, in 72 until the year after I got married. We got fishing, but we also would meet with a group of young revolutionaries of the time, free love, all this sort of thing. So Genoa is still very dear to me because I've got Jerry Gong here in the book, the lovers, the anonymous lovers. Contrary to what people might think, including my wife, I listen and I take notice and I learn from others. People think I talk too much, maybe I do, but remember I come from a tiny island, from a small village where there was nothing, and I mean nothing. So the only thing we had was a mouth. And so I use that quite often and I haven't stopped since. But I don't know how many of you sort of have heard or have seen Michelangelo's statue David in St. Peter's in the Chains. And the story goes, which is true, that when he finished this work, which was a special tomb for Pope Julius II, he looked at the statue, was sort of so impressive, and he said, "Why don't you talk to me?" So he gets the mallet and he just damaged one of the knee. One of the knees has got this huge neck because he was so, he wanted to converse with Moses, not David, Moses, was wise, and he couldn't, so that was his revenge for not talking. So when, as you know, I dabble in writing, but also dabble in visual art, and to me they go hand in hand. It's sort of in writing, it's like a painting, but with instead of having colours or lines, well, you do have lines because you've got letters, 25 letters, 26 letters, 21 in Italian. You write millions of books, sort of out of 26 little hieroglyphs. And drawing and painting is exactly the same. It tells a story in different ways. So, after I was doing the other drawing, I really liked that drawing. It wasn't finished, but I wanted to put in the book. And then later on, I said, I've got to finish it because I wasn't happy with it. And at the same time, I finished the other drawing. There's an end to it. And then all of a sudden, you might remember about 3 months ago, I read a poem called Ordinary Conversation. And then as I had a look again and again, I said, what is this drawing telling me? What is that figure telling me? What's the point of it? What does he represent? Why do I write? I've got a drawing. Why? And almost felt this dialogue coming to me. And originally I had finished the poem, and then all of a sudden I realized that I had it all wrong and to make all these changes. So that drawing, she speaks to me, and that's what she said. I started in November 14, and I finished at the end of last month. And I call it Drawing Conversation. My whole body's melting. I'm losing consciousness. I get lost in a sensuous dream. No real awareness, just the sensation, containment, abandonment, absolute rapture and desire. I feel desired and special, beautiful and female, so complete. Inside and outside my body I have this magnet. In the middle of my body, this diffusing feeling on my solar plexus. The two energies merging together,
My whole body's in flame. That's melting even my skin. So that's what the story tells me. Another one, before I go. On Saturday, I had thanks, Kevin. A brilliant photographic session of it using camera with the cat. And beside that, to use a camera, I learned a lot more how to be creative. And we were talking about a rose, taking a photo of a rose. I love flowers, especially roses and camellias. So I'm surrounded in my veggie page. And I penned some time ago this poem. Then after I got home on Saturday, that rose and the roses that sort of got in the garden, somehow or another they got together. I said, I've got to finish this poem because that's the only way I can say thank you, Kevin, for helping me out. So in a way, Kevin is instrumental in me going back to this and trying to get to the beauty of what a flower is, but also going back to my live drawing. Woo! It's your fault. So it's called My Love, My Red Rose. Come in my flower garden and share with me the joy of its perfume. The colours are stunning like my old palette. It never ages and will be young forever, like I shall remain youthful for you. I will always be there for you, to share the beauty of my flowers. If you want, you will be the first red rose covered in cool perfume dew that I shall pick in the morning. You shall bloom only for me. Every morning I will pick a fresh flower that reminds me of you. My real morning fresh red rose.
Thanks much, Shadow. I feel like I've had a drawing and a poetry workshop all in one. Bo. Come on down. Bo is going to read a short story. What's the 2 in brackets? Part 2?
Part 2.
Part 2. Cool.
Yes, I actually got a couple of requests to continue the piece that I started at the last mic night. So this is a continuation of Ordinary Combustibles, and just as a recap, the setting is the main character, or sort of the focal character, Paul, has died. He was an arsonist, and his family is currently at his old house, basically packing up all his furniture after the funeral. So. Matt started emptying out the cabinet's one solid shelf of its photos and cramped paraphernalia, a bunch of frames, a small bundle of 50ml bottles of liqueur, a figurine of a phoenix. Paul had always loved the flames, playing with it or admiring it. There were only a few photos of Cecilia, wrapped up in her vaguely sun-toned hair and always looking away from the camera. How long ago was it? A few months before the arson, so maybe close to 3 years. A long time to nurse a burnt-out ember. Matt gathered the photos and threw them roughly into a box next to his feet. He heard a crack. Maybe he should have been gentler with the frames. But it barely seemed to matter. Paul was dead and Cecilia had cast herself into the winds. Maybe after that he was so bored with himself, so bored with finding distractions, but never again anything to occupy him, that he could only turn to the art of destruction. And he could lash out at anything that promised to return to him the sense of completion that he had lost. He could raise all the totems of wish fulfillment to the ground and punish them for their arrogance. Starting with that church. Maybe Matt finally found a small glimmer of understanding for his brother's actions. A car horn cut in from outside. It highlighted how quiet the house had been. That would be Joanne, said Yvonne from the kitchen. It seemed a useless statement, but Matt grunted something in acknowledgement, barely a word and barely a noise, and headed out to greet his aunt and open the car door for her. It was an old tradition. Matt had loved opening car doors for people as a small child, and Joanne had latched onto the game as a small note of entitlement that she refused to let go of. "Oh, Matt, you don't need to do that for me anymore," she said as she hopped out of the car, even as Matt knew how hurt and disappointed she would be if they ever stopped the game. The passenger door opened and slammed shut. He hadn't even paid attention to see if anyone else was in the car. And when he looked up, Cecilia was leaning against the door, her arms falling across the top of the car like a flimsy roof rack. She was the same as in the photos among Paul's relics. 3 years' worth of entropy should have taken away her shine at least a little. 3 years' worth of absence, and she only had a flippant "been a while" to offer him. Aunt Joanne had already vanished, scurrying into the house. Cecilia followed her like a pet. Jay had been by the door, watching with a pinched expression as the women passed him. Joanne with a quick hug and peck on his cheek, and Cecilia with no acknowledgement at all. Matt only now hurried after them, realising too late the danger of the situation. The deadwood about to go up in flames. He almost ran to Cecilia as he dashed through the doorway. She'd stopped at the cabinet near the entryway, the phoenix figurine in a sun-coloured hand. In the kitchen, Yvonne and Joanne were talking in high-pitched tones, but it sounded friendly enough for the moment. Yvonne clearly hadn't yet noticed Cecilia's presence suspicious. Matt could only brace for what was about to come and chide himself for being unable to think of a way to stop the inevitable. He watched as his mother reacted, every moment of her transformation visible on her face and in her actions, as her directionless misery, her anguish at losing a troubled baby boy, found something that could, if only in a long stretch of pretense, be blamed. And she struck Cecilia, a quick and savage swipe, a product of impulse, completely out of character. Cecilia retreated in reflex, crashing into Matt and sending them both tumbling into the entry hallway. Matt picked himself up quickly, but Cecilia stayed where she was, a look of total disgust on her face. Yvonne braced herself in the passageway, standing over the woman who had left Paul, her son, Paul, the bright shining star, broken, breathing heavily. When had Matt ever seen his mother gain then lose her temper in such a sudden flash? And only now Aunt Joanne entered the scene, grabbing Yvonne's arm and trying to usher her back into the kitchen. Yvonne stayed put, shrugging her sister off and watching Cecilia get back to her feet and stand there, hemmed in Paul's house by his relatives, a small creature proud and defiant in the lion's den. "Why are you even here?" Yvonne said. Cecilia, finding herself under the spotlights, didn't answer at once. She rotated, sizing up her opponent in Yvonne, her ward in Joanne, and the bystander in Matt, her gaze meeting each of them dead on. Then she spoke. Oh, right. I keep forgetting. Yes, page 17. Ordinarily the submission window would have closed, but it is actually open until Friday. We extended it because I realised that we actually made it shorter this year by accident. So if you have any short stories, poetry, non-fiction, for our general submissions or for our competition, all the submission windows close on Friday. Check out our information at busybird.com.au. Our email address is page 17, all spelled out all one word, at busybird.com.au. And yes, if you have anything, please send it in, and you could be in our latest issue of page 17, which promotes new writers and promotes new writing. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to remind people of, there's all of these things are up on the table if anyone is interested. So we have our weekend retreat coming up in October. Gay came to this last year. We had a lot of fun, didn't we?
It was great, really great.
So there's brochures there. So Gay, you can ask Gay for, you can grill her if you like, see how much fun that was.
What day is it?
It's the weekend of the 9th to the 11th of October in Kinglake. So a weekend writing retreat for writing your life story, memoir, family history, that kind of thing. And we also have a little brochure for Father's Day. Who knows when Father's Day is?
9 months before Mother's Day.
No, it's not. 6th of September. So we actually have a little brochure there for Father's Day ideas if anyone needs them. We're going to have Gay up to do some poetry.
And singing?
I'm not sure that I've got an enormous head cold.
Have you?
But I was just saying to Kevin, well, you could do something husky. So I might do something risky and risque and husky. Thank you. The first poem I'd like to do is about my father. And he died just before Christmas, and he was a wonderful man. And so this is a little tribute to him.
Say, can you speak up?
Speak up, okay. It's called I Want You to Know. My father has died, and I want you to know he was wonderful in every way. He was the warm in the wintry field of snow. He really listened to what I had to say. He was wonderful in every way. My father has died, and with him has gone answers to questions unasked. I thought there'd be time to ask later on, that our time together would last, while in the warmth of his love I would bask. My father has died, and I want you to know he was brave and never complained, privately coping with problems of age, keeping his physical problems maintained. Once out his door, he strove to present a happy face, a picture of blissful content. My father has died, and I want you to know he was wonderful in every way. And if I could wish one wish for you all, it would be that you had a father the same. Thank you. This one's called My Middle. I've had a suspicion for quite some time that something's happening to this body of mine. I've noticed the shape between knee and chin appears to be round, it doesn't go in. What's happened to the middle of me? Where's the space where my waist should be? I had to investigate and see what was going on, and so in my birthday suit I stood bravely before the mirror. Time passed, and then by and by I opened one terrified eye. What the mirror showed is too awful to tell, but it confirmed my suspicions very well. I've lost my middle, it's gone, you see, and where it was is filled up with more of me. And this is one about gardening. I was in the garden, down on my knees, when suddenly I found myself face down in the peas. On reaching over to remove some clover, I lost my balance and rolled over and over. There was dirt on my face, my clothes were askew. And it was as I lay there, I smelt the dog poo. And this one's called The Glitter. Eyelashes, thick, long and dark, resting on silky skin. Cupid's bow mouth, gently breathing out and in. One hand flung high above his head, the other clutching his favourite Ted. A little miracle, so precious, so small, another grandson to run down our hall. Asleep after a long day of unrestrained laughter and boisterous play. Sometimes I ponder and think it cannot be true. Children so perfect that it's hardly real to you. They are the joy of my heart. They soften my woes, lift my spirit and keep me on my toes. They are the summer that counters winter. In the grey, they are the glitter. Thank you. And I might sing something just to be funny. I believe that everyone in life should have a mission. Making people happy is the height of my ambition. When I get them happy, well, they stay in that condition. I have a system of my own. I got a lot of what I got. And what I got's all mine. And I assure you I can cure you if you're feeling blue. Come up and see me sometime. I got a flat where you can hang your hat. I got a brand new line, and maybe you would like me to explain it all to you. Come up and see me sometime, come up tonight. They say that the papers that the moon will be bright. They should have had it in the papers and all, letters that told that you'd be falling for me. I got a flat where you can hang your hat. I got a brand new line, and maybe you would like me to explain it all to you. Come up and see me sometime, come up tonight. The paper said that the moon would be bright. They should have had it in the papers and all, letters that told that you'd be falling for me. 'Cause I am free and you appeal to me. How could it be a crime if you don't get my number? Well, my number's in the book. Come up and see me sometime, you won't regret it. Come up and see me sometime. Well, that was pathetic. Cole, get to see the Cole.
Lisa. Lisa is going to read a vignette.
The room at the end of the hall. The room was at the other end of the passage, behind a locked door. I'd never noticed it before. Even though it was late summer, it was dark and cool, and I stood there tracing the ridges in the wallpaper with the tips of my fingers, doing my best to be patient. On the other side of the room, a hairless teddy bear with a broken eye was squinting at me from beside some pieces from Mama's china collection. 2 porcelain towers twined with birds and flowers, and pink-skinned cherubs. They were really museum exhibits that were too tall for the cabinets lining the wall. Today Mama had something even more special to show me. She took a white cardboard box down from the shelf so I could open it. Swaddled beneath layers of tissue paper was a crimson dragon suit with white piping around the cuffs and coiled frogs in a row down the front. It was a traditional costume, one of the mementos my grandparents brought back from the Orient. The word sent shivers across my skin. Orient, so foreign and exotic, so strange and different. Rory McClintock, a boy from down the street, said that over there they swallow goldfish whole and eat scorpions on a stick, but I bet he was making it up. The fabric of the suit was so fine I almost didn't dare touch it. When I did, it was slithery and slippery, and it shimmered when Mama held it up against me. It was a bit big, but not too much. You're going to be a little Chinese girl in the Peddler's Parade this year. I could hardly believe it, how often had I peered through the small window into the joss house at the museum and dreamed that one day I might have a key to the door. And now, for a little while, I would be a mystery girl draped in oriental silk. The suit might even have dragons' magical powers, and nobody would be able to tell who I was. Instead of being me, I would be someone else. The reason for the vignette was to use it as a way to explore character in the story. And this particular vignette was based on the idea of a transitional object, in this case, the magical dragon suit. And so hopefully I'm going to build on that into a story in the future. Although it is a small moment, the transitional aspects of this vignette will have larger echoes in the story I would like to write. For the adult character, the room at the end of the passage is a much darker and more dangerous place, and her choice of costume will have unpredictable effects on those around her, and not all of the characters will be who they seem. So that's where I'm hoping it's going to go. Thanks,
is going to read his prologue.
Yep.
Yes. So as you know, Angus has been working on a novel for a few months now. Yes, and he's making good progress by the sound of it. So welcome.
Thanks guys. Yeah, so I'm working on a novel at the moment. And it's going really well. Last month I read out a monologue, which is a bit of an excerpt from the book. Since then I've opened a Facebook page and started a blog. And on that I've put an introduction and the prologue to the actual book. So I'm going to read the prologue tonight, and if it gets you excited, which I'm hoping it will be, I've got like 1,000 business cards, so if you want one or two or a dozen, happy to give them out and get involved. So yeah, hope you enjoy this, guys. In his younger years, Stephen had owned a farm west of Gillian, spanning nearly 100 acres. His green fields were grazed by dozens of cattle, sheep and goats. He would teach his 2 young daughters how to milk and shear. Instead, they often giggled and played, leaving Stephen to do all the work. The milk and cheese and fur provided well for Stephen and his family. His wife sewed blankets and clothes. If she had the time, Stephen's wife would prepare fresh cream while the girls made scones. Any excess produce would be carted to the markets within Gillian by Stephen and returned in the shape of wheat, grain, flour, and sometimes, if the girls were good, brick houses which felt more like walls than anything else. Most people were asleep in their homes, with their doors locked and their hearths alight. Yet the houses stood as a barricade to Stephen. They were able to banish the cold outside, just as they did to Stephen. This was a comfort he hadn't had for many years, for he was one he called the cobblestones of the street home. Approaching the age of 70, Stephen's body was not built to race or to run. His heart barely kept up with his feet, despite all that forced him forward. He didn't know which would give out first, but he knew that if they caught up to him, he wouldn't have need for either. A dog yelped as Stephen collided with it, and responded with a single snapping attack to his shin. He kicked it off, but only after it had reduced him to a limping state. "Help!" Stephen's croaky voice desperately shouted to the dead structures around him. They only echoed back his cry, mocking and taunting him. No one would hear him, and even if they did, people did not care. Stephen did not know where he ran, only forward, only away from them. He turned a corner, his palm gripping the edge of the wall to hold his balance. Once he had, he habitually brushed his untended grey hair to the side. In the past, he often had to remove his hair from blocking his vision, but that was in the days of riding upon great, strong legs. Now, it didn't prevent his blurred vision at all, as rain refused to subside and continued to pour down on him. They mustn't be far behind him now. The rumours had grown and spread. Now the entire city knew of the snatchers, who would come in the dead of night and steal away the defenceless. They won't come for me, Stephen had told himself. They have no use for an old man, but apparently they did. As the aging man exited the alleyway and came to Dunwall Avenue, Stephen frantically looked in every direction twice. Seeing no immediate danger, he arched his back and rested his arms on his knees. He breathed in and out heavily. His stomach gurgled, not because of the perpetual hunger he still hadn't grown used to, but because of being far overworked. He couldn't keep this up much longer. Ahead, something fell. Stephen looked right, down Dunwall Avenue, which led to the city square. His breathing stopped, only his heart kept soaring away within his constricted chest. The rest of his body shut down, just waiting. No cat came from out of the darkness, and no mice fled from their predator. He held his breath longer, but nothing. He should keep moving. Just to be sure, Stephen decided to go left, away from whatever had made that noise. But as he turned, even his heart stopped working. He saw one of his murderers there, sauntering towards him. She wore nothing but black, pants, shirt and mask. She seemed like a shadow, approaching with such malicious grace. She had done this many times and had become masterful in her act. Stephen turned away and ran on enfeebled legs. The rain came down on his face harder and the wind picked up, almost willing him just to give up. He knew it was futile. The world knew it was futile. It had been futile for so long, but not always. He should have been on his farm with his daughters and his wife. "Help me, please." His words echoed back at him from the uncaring walls. Tears began to flow down his cheeks. He needed the caress of the sun upon his skin once again, not this feeling of drowning. That was when the inevitable caught up to him. A loose tile collided with his good shin, sending him tumbling to the ground. He cried out in pain, but there was no one to hear, save the woman in black, of course. Stefan twisted onto his back and saw her strutting closer and closer. It was as if she did not breathe and was, in fact, a shadow. She seemed so calm, so assured. In her left hand was a dagger, and Stefan could nearly feel the icy slash along his throat. He placed his palms against the slippery surface, pushing feebly away, but he was losing ground. She was so close now. His back met the stone wall of a house. He had nowhere to go. "Please, just let me be. I am of no use to you." The second salient jumped from the roof behind Stefan and landed, clean and silent. He pictured himself back on his farm. He could hear his daughters laughing, see their smiles. He wished he'd never tasted alcohol or been tempted by money. "Damn you!" Stefan cried at his murderers. The male assailant raised his arms in front of his body. Even amidst this heavy rain, the magical fire had no difficulty growing in his hands. Stefan's eyes widened and he screamed. The flames lathered and consumed his body, scorching his flesh and eating away the few years he had left. The screams were shrill and loud. They did not last long. Soon, they stopped. All that remained of Stefan the farmer was a blackened body. His eyes seemed to have survived though, and aimlessly stared out into the distance. The two assailants turned and walked away. Thank you, guys.
So that's all our readers for tonight. We're going to draw the raffle. So if everyone has everyone their tickets. The prize tonight is $50 voucher for Busybird, so you can use that $50 for anything that we have, whether it's books, workshops, editing services, anything that Busybird does, you can have $50 towards. One of the pictures on the wall. Everyone got their tickets ready? You two are the ones. 006.
You do it after me.
Is it 006? Well done. Every time it goes well. There we go.
You didn't come last night.
I know. That's the only reason you didn't come, isn't it? Okay, thanks guys. So hang around, have a cup more wine, and hopefully we'll see you next month. Thanks for coming. Someone left their glasses. Good.